Hey folks, Jake and I are here to shoot a contest video for Billy Hurst birthday contest. Boy, this contest is proving to be a lot more difficult than what I had anticipated when I first heard the contest announced. Billy asked for 4 albums from his birth year. Not too much of a problem. He asked for 4 albums from the participant's birth year. In my case, that's 1966. And that started to make things difficult. And I'll explain when we get to 1966. And then he asked for 4 country albums as a bonus, and that wasn't a problem at all. The biggest problem with that was cutting it down to just 4 albums. So let's get started. The first 2 that I'm going to show, well, actually, from 1974, probably the first 3 have all been shown, probably multiple times. But it is what it is. I guess I was, 8 in 1974? Yeah, so somewhere in there I made the leap from the first band I was into, which would have been the Partridge Family, to the hottest band in the land, Kiss. And so that's what I have for you. First, I have Kiss's debut. Great songs on this: Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Cold Gin, Deuce, 100,000 Years, Black Diamond. Doesn't get much better than this. And then, of course, I'm also going to show Kiss, Hotter Than Hell. Some more great songs on it, like Got to Choose, Hotter Than Hell, Let Me Go, Rock and Roll. And what a captivating cover that is. So, there's the first 2, Kiss's first 2 albums. Now, this next one I've just gotten into in the past year. In fact, I picked this album up in October. I've been on kind of a kick with this band, Rush, and it's their debut. Really started getting into Rush this year. So when I was in October, I was down at Grimey's and ran into a couple of Rush albums, and I knew this was their debut, so I picked it up. It's good stuff. All right. Now here's the one that I probably won't get shown, except by me, and that is Coming to His Presence, Paul Clark and Friends. This album kind of sounds like it would be a worship album. I guess, Jake, is it time for your close-up? You all right, buddy? All right. So, Paul Clark, this album is kind of sounds like it would be a worship album, but it's more rock than that. I had some great friends, musical friends, play on this album, including this gentleman right here. Is Phil Keggy, the guitar master that was in the rock band Glass Harp and then went on a very successful solo career. He's definitely one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and maybe the best guitar player I've ever heard. Just phenomenal player. And that his playing combined with Paul Clark's songwriting makes this a fantastic album. I've shot this video, so I'd already pulled the vinyl out. On Sunshine Records. Alright, so that takes care of 1974, so let's jump in the way back machine and go back to 66. You wouldn't think that 8 years would make much of a difference, but it does. One, it's pre-heavy metal, and really the Jesus music movement hadn't taken off. The Jesus music being what they would refer to, what would now be referred to as contemporary Christian music. Larry Norman had not really put out anything yet. So that made some of the picking kind of hard, and I thought, well, that still leaves me the rock of the day, and then country and jazz and blues. But it was just hard to find. There were sometimes prolific artists like Dave Brubeck. I would look at his discography, and I'd have a whole bunch of his stuff, but not the stuff from 66. The same way with Johnny Cash. So what I really have, and I hope I get some grace on this, is I have 3 CDs to show, and I'll show 2 albums that are on my want list that would have rounded out the 4 if I had either one of them. And so let's go ahead and get into that. First up, Bluesbreakers, John Mayall, Bluesbreakers, and with Eric Clapton from 1966. I just picked this up this year. Great blues album. Had been on my wish list for quite some time. I think I picked it up at the Fat Rabbit one time, but I can't. It is the deluxe edition. Knew I wanted it, like John Mayall, and I'm a big Eric Clapton fan, so I was very pleased because I found this really cheap. I knew as soon as I saw it, I would not walk out without it. The next album is The Beatles, Revolver. Great album. I am not the biggest Beatles fan in the world. I don't think that they, I'm of the school that rock and roll would have happened with or without them. They're not the greatest thing that's ever, greatest band of all time. I'm not going to give them that either. There are a lot of great bands. They happen to be one of the first ones. But this album did show some great growth and sophistication in their songwriting, and there are some great tunes on here like Eleanor Rigby and Got to Get You Into My Life. So I'll hand it to them. They were a great band. It's not like they invented music, though. Let's keep it in perspective. But I really do like Revolver. All right, so that's, and then Dust on Mother's Bible, Buck Owens and the Buckaroos. I picked this up this year too. I just saw that cover and thought that was a great shot of them. I was intrigued because it was a gospel album, and they did. What I appreciated was it didn't sound like a typical gospel album with Buck Owens vocals on it. It sounded like Buck Owens and the Buckaroos record, and they happen to be doing gospel music. There is a difference there. I hope I wasn't too confusing there, but there's a difference, and one that I appreciate that they didn't change their style because they're doing a gospel album. They just played it. All right, so one artist that I had looked at, and I did not have his album. I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan. I've got a ton of his stuff. This is a 66, we're recording from 66. Unfortunately, it was put out in 98, so can't really count that. But the album that he put out that year was Blonde on Blonde. And I've heard people rave about that album. It's one of the few that has eluded me so far. But I've got one ordered and should be here any day now. That was one. So Dylan's Blonde on Blonde is one album that is on my want list. The other one, Johnny Cash put out 2 albums that year, and there's one that has really intrigued me, and that's Everyone Loves a Nut. It seems so different for Johnny that, so I'm really interested in picking that one up. That's it for 64. So let's get into the 4 country albums. I'll try to keep this short. I'm reshooting again because my last video went so long. Anyway, the first one, Johnny Cash, God, and you might be thinking, what are you, Dale? If you're such a huge Johnny Cash fan, why would you be showing this? First, it's a comp album. Of some of his gospel hits, but it's not even the whole set. There's 2 other albums, Life and Murder. Well, when I started getting back into country music back around 99, this came out in 2000, I didn't have a whole lot of Johnny's stuff. I maybe picked up some of the American recordings and some older stuff, and trying to pick them up when I could find them. But this album just, there are really 2 kind of country folks that I know, because there are 2 different types of country folks in my family. There's my mother's side, which come up in Kentucky, eastern Kentucky and central Kentucky. We're more coal miners and farmers. We don't really wear a whole lot of cowboy hats or anything of that nature. The only time you actually see a lot of people in Kentucky wearing cowboy hats, it's usually because they're going, it's a bunch of fake country people going out to watch the country pop stars that come around now. The ones that got to tell you how country they are all the time. And then there's my father's side of the family, which is in South Dakota. Most of that family was based out of Faith, South Dakota. It's a little town of 500 people, and sits on the edge of the Badlands. My grandfather was born in a town that's now a ghost town in the Badlands. He wore a cowboy hat every day of his life. He rode horses. There's Horses in the Family album. One of the great stories of our family is how Grandma accidentally broke her arm when she fell off her horse because it stepped in a hole where my grandfather had dug to hide his moonshine. They were country people. My grandfather understood travel in South Dakota. He could tell you how far it was to get, whether you just riding a horse or whether you're taking a horse with a carriage of some sort. It was a different lifestyle. This album, this little comp with songs like The Greatest Cowboy of Them All, and I don't know what my grandfather listened to as far as music, because I just wasn't around him enough. I visited out there several times, but just was never out there enough to know. But I would like to think that this might be something that he would listen to, and the music just makes me feel like it takes me out that way. It makes me feel closer to that part of the family. And so that's why I like this little comp that's not even a full set. Next up, Buddy Miller, Poison Love. Fantastic album. I don't hear Buddy Miller get talked about much in the VC. Here he is on the back of this. I'm taking this out because the cover's cracked. But he's a brilliant artist, been band leader for Emmylou Harris. In fact, Emmylou Harris is all over this album with doing backup vocals, acoustic guitar. Sam Bush, the world-class fiddle player, is on this album. Jim Lauderdale is on here too. Yeah, just some great stuff. Kicks off with a cover of the Roger Miller, George Jones song, Nothing Can Stop Me. Lots of great songs on this. Buddy Miller, he really should be, really deserves more attention. I know No Depression magazine, when they went out of business, I think their last cover, or when they quit printing, their last cover was a Buddy Miller where they named him like Artist of the Decade, and I thought that was well deserving, and wish the world knew his name a little bit better. This next one, again, I'll take the cover out because there's a sticker on the front. It's Willie Nelson, Teatro. Love this album. Great songs on it, like I Never Cared for You, Darkness on the Face of the Earth, I Loved You All Over the World, I Just Destroyed the World. Great songs. The music on this CD almost makes it feel like a concept album because it seems kind of stylized. It almost feels like it has a little bit of a Mexican flavor, maybe, but anyway, it really does feel like a concept album, and Emmylou Harris contributes vocals throughout the whole thing. It's really, I don't hear a lot of talk about this particular album, and it probably deserves a little bit more attention as well. It just is fantastic. And then finally, Billy Joe Shaver, Everybody's Brother. Love this album. It's a country gospel album. A lot of great guest stars on it, like Chris Christopherson, John Anderson, Marty Stewart, Tanya Tucker, Johnny Cash, and the Native American artist Bill Miller. Oh man, and what super songs on this thing. Get Thee Behind Me, Satan. You Just Can't Beat Jesus Christ, which he did with Johnny Cash. The Greatest Man Alive. Yeah, just some wonderful albums. Billy Joe Shaver. And those are my 4 country albums. I'm going to try to wrap it up. 18 minutes. I did a lot better than I did the last time. Jake has gotten bored and went off and done his thing. But anyway, happy birthday, Billy. Great contest. Made me work for this one a little bit. But that's cool. I had fun doing it. So, again, happy birthday, great channel, and for everybody else watching, I hope you all are having a great weekend, and for Jake and myself, hope you're doing well, and we'll see you soon.